Thank you so much for joining. Just give me a minute because I have to make this video visible for everyone. Good morning. It's so good to have you here. Okay, great. Here we are. So, perfect. Okay, you can see us now. Hooray. So, Coach Eric, I'm just going to share this to your page.
Please do. Please do.
Yes.
There we go. So
We're
let me
going to
do
do
this real
that.
quick.
So, are you going to share it?
I'm to your audience. I'm looking down here because I have my laptop
Okay.
going as well. So I want to make sure that there we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that down, and I
Okay.
am ready for your time. Our time together.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I am excited. It's going to be a fun time this morning. Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know if you can see and hear us. That's very important. Good morning. Uh, but I want
We could use sign language.
right. But let me try this out. Oh, perfect. This works. I just checked. So we can hear and see us. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And you are welcome to the Civilized Presence. And you are in the right place at the right time. Good morning. Thank you so much. I'm just going to give a minute or two for Facebook to notify people that we are here. Good morning. Thank you, guys.
I
And
have to say, while we're waiting for everybody to jump in, you always appear so elegant, so well
oh, thank
dressed,
you.
so manicured. I felt like I should wear a suit and tie just to be in your company. You know,
But
part of
this
being
is why I didn't
civilized
wear a suit. This
is
is why I didn't
matching
wear a
your
blazer.
guest, your host. But it is Georgia. It's like 100 degrees and
You
120%
are
humidity.
fine. You are fine.
So, but you always appear to be so graceful
Thank you.
in these. So,
That means a lot
I
to
hope
me.
I don't shame your stage.
You are fine. You are fine. Thank you so much. And I didn't have a blazer on today, so um, I think this is more business casual. So we should be fine, isn't it?
Good, because I didn't wear. I thought, no, I can't go in a t-shirt
That's
with
fine.
my superhero t-shirt or
I was
something.
trying.
That
I
might
was
be a little
trying
too
not to
good.
be too casual. Hello, Bradley. Thank you so much for being here. So, guys, thank you, Bradley. Could you just let us know where you're logging in from? We really do appreciate you for making our time to be here. Like I said, this is the Civilized Presence, and you are in the right place. We are here every Mondays and Fridays at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, you can follow us on Facebook at So Unique Experts, and we are also on Instagram at So Unique Expert. And if you would like to learn more about what we do, because I know you do want to learn, our website is www.thecivilityacademy.com. So, like I just announced, meanwhile, Coach Eric, this morning I am so excited because it is our session number 25. Can you imagine? So I had the right person be here for session number 25. And guys, I just want to let you know that Coach Eric is not just a colleague and a friend, he's also a coach. To me, he has been very instrumental in making this a success. So thank you. Thank you. You were able to push me out. It's like, you have to do this, Louisa. I believe in you. Thank you so much. You're from Jamaica. Thank you. Wow, we're popular today in Jamaica. Now, so guys, the only thing that I would ask is that, okay, if you're here live, I really do appreciate you. Bradley, I can see you and I can see some other people. But if you are not directly on my page or on Coach Eric's page, I might not be able to see your name. But I do want to recognize it because you're special. Can you just leave a comment in the box below? and just say hello. And another thing that we want from you is really to give us some likes and some love, because Facebook does something really great with the videos when we have a lot of likes and love. Now, this has been fun ever since we started in April. We've been paddling it along. It is hello, Morel from London, UK. Thank you so much for being here. So it has been fun, and this is the 25th session, guys. Now, I just want you to know more about this session. If this is your first time of being here, it is the civilized presence, and the main focus why we started was really to help restore civility through meaningful and constructive conversation. Yes, Morel, I am happy to see you. Hello. So, I have not been doing this alone. I have had different experts from different parts of the world, different walks of life, really coming here and just trying to make fun and have fun with, talking about how we can foster civility in different contexts, really trying to drive it back home. So I've had experts from the school system, from the health, the community, the government, everyone has been here. Okay, now I just wanted to know that it is not that difficult to be civil. You can begin with saying please and thank you, or even good morning. And if you were here a lot earlier, you could have heard Coach Eric. He gave me such a great compliment. I started turning pink, but not too pink because I'm brown skinned. But thank you. So you can do that. Now, civility is really focused on people's treatment, how you take responsibility to ease the experience of the person next to you. Hello, Ella. I can see you from Virginia. Thank you so much for being here. So, if you've never met me before, or you've never seen me, or you've never been on this program, my name is Louisa Akaiso, and I am a certified master civility trainer and a leadership expert. You want to know what I do? I work confidently with leaders and professionals like you that pay great importance in themselves and their reputation. Okay, so because you are here, thank you. Please do us a favor to share this video on your page. I know that you might have people in your network who would find this information very useful. And together we can build a community of like minded individuals. Hello, Ella. Thank you. You're excited to watch Eric? Oh, that's right. You better hang on because he's got some great nugget that he's gonna. Anytime Eric is in the house, he moves tables. He's really good like that. We call him the success coach. So you're gonna find out shortly. Now, so for the month of May, we had the Global Civility Awareness Month, and that was really fine. We had the 31 Days Challenge. For the month of June, we had the Kindness Challenge, and we brought in Jacqueline Moore from the Kindness Community and Civility Center, and there was so much to learn. I hope you were part of it, but if you are not, it's not too late. This is the month of July. Our main focus really was to talk about the rules of civility. But Coach Eric is here, and we are going to deal with something that is very, very important. I don't know if you had seen the flyer or the post, but if you did not, that's okay. You're here. Now, I know you want to push me off and just want me to introduce Coach Eric, and I'm going to do just that, okay? And so, Coach Eric is a certified success coach, like I told you before. If you want to know how to achieve success and you're struggling with success and you're not comfortable with success, this is the person you need to talk to. He specialized in leadership development, productivity, team building, business planning, and change management. He is also the CEO of Success Life and Eric G. Reid Consulting. And I want you to know that he is certified with DISC and NLP. That is very important. Now, another thing that's so great about Coach Eric is that he's part of the John Maxwell team. This is why I have so much access to learn from him. Now, even if you're not part of the John Maxwell team, you can add him on Facebook. And he has every morning something called the Success Hour. Trust me, that's how I start my day. So I hang out with Coach Eric even when I'm in the bathroom. Well, he can't see me, but I get on the session just to learn and be pumped up for the day. This morning we had a great topic, which will bring him back here for. That was very important. And I thought he was just talking civility. So, before we continue, I would love to share with you the definition of civility. And I'm going to be using the one from the civility experts that defines civility as a conscious awareness of the impacts of one's thoughts, actions, words, and intentions on others, combined with a continuous acknowledgement of one's responsibility to ease the experience of others through restraint, kindness, non judgment, respect, and courtesy, and a consistent effort to adopt and exhibit civil behavior as a non negotiable point of one's character. I know you're just saying, Louisa, that's a mouthful. Yes, it is. Now, what you need to take away from this session is that civility is focused on people's treatment, being responsible. I learned something this morning from Coach Eric. Respond with the ability. Okay? Being responsible for your actions. Nobody's going to do it. Say please and thank you. Apologize if you have to earnestly. It is not that difficult. If you've never done it before, that's okay. You're not late to the game. You can learn today. Now, on Saturday, we had a great session with Coach CJ, also from the John Maxwell team. Yes, yes, John Maxwell team. And the topic was helping boys become men and men become boys. If you missed that, please check on my page. I still have a replay there. Now, thank you so much, all of you, for being here. If you catch us on the replay, do not forget to comment in the box below with the hashtag replay and post any questions that you would have because we're looking forward to it. That's what's going to help me serve you better because these sessions are for you. And I want to make sure that you are happy. So post all the questions that you have. Now, Bradley Brooks is saying, I am from beautiful Jamaica. I wonder who we can get our leaders of our country to be. You're going to find out shortly. Coach Eric is in the house. It's time to learn. So sit tight, have your glass of drink, or you can have coffee. I don't know where you are, what part of the world, what the weather is like. And we are ready to learn. So at this point, I'm just going to get Coach Eric to say hello to the audience.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to share this time with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach Eric. It's so good to have you in the house. I am so excited, and I know that it's going to be fun in the civility party for today. Now, guys, the topic, if you had seen the post, really was civility and cross cultural differences. Now, if you were in the United States or any neighboring countries, you would know that has been an issue lately. We're not saying anything, but it has been. So, Coach Eric, usually how this runs is like I'm just going to get some questions to you and you pass on the answers to us. So, first of all, I'd like you to tell the audience what does civility mean to you?
I love your bigger definition, but I'm a simple mind, so
Right.
I have to bring things into man digestible pieces. And so I often tell my kids, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it truthful?
Mm,
And if it doesn't pass those three things, then don't say it. And
mm,
I think if we operate from that as our base point of civility, is
mm,
it kind? Is it really necessary that I say it?
mm,
And is it truthful? And by truthful, truthful has to stand outside of self.
mm,
Then maybe it's okay to say it. Maybe it's okay to act in that way. Maybe it's okay to have that opinion. But if it's not kind, if it's not necessary, and if it's not truthful, shut it up and move on. And so when I think of civility, I think of, are the words, the actions, or the deed that I'm doing kind? Is it truthful? Am I saying what I believe because it is a truth and I intend to be truthful? And is it helpful? And is it, does it add value to the room or is it simply ego-centered?
great. Thank you so much. I think that is easy for people to jump on. And I also want to say that if you're thinking about civility, think about golden rule. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. I think that's easy enough to take away from the session.
It's
Okay,
funny. I want to, if I may coach for just a minute. I've
please
heard
do.
that, and
Go
then I
for it.
heard it twisted to treat others the way that they would
That's
want to be
right. The
treated.
platinum rule. Exactly.
So often
Exactly.
we start from the position of, well, I would want to be treated that way. Well, just because
Mm,
I want that may not be what the other person wants. And if I
Mm-hmm.
raise my awareness to what they want, need,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm
Mm-hmm.
truly acting in a manner of
Absolutely.
others. So treat
Yes.
others as the way that they would want to be treated.
That's fine. And if that works, absolutely. A few sessions ago, we had a chat with an expert here who also said she prefers the platinum rule. And she kind of argued that it's because sometimes our self esteem and self worth is so low. So if we have a really low self worth, trying to treat others the way we want to be treated might not be the right approach. So that is great to hear.
I like that.
Okay. So I have another question for you. Now, culture is learned. What I mean is, you are not born with a culture. You come to learn to behave a certain way. And culture is viewed in the US or in every part of the world as being primarily related to race, ethnicity, and gender. Now, the main part of the question is, in developing an awareness of one's own culture, existence, thoughts, and environment, how would one go about not just accepting, but also respecting cultural differences? Over to you, Coach Eric.
Wow. So on first appearance, I appear to be a particular culture.
Mm,
Let's be honest, I'm white, Anglo Saxon, American.
mm,
That has been a dominant voice in the US for a very long time and tends to be sometimes the loudest voice in crowds.
mm,
And for me to become aware of my culture,
mm.
I had to understand not only my responsibility to it, but also my history in it. And
Right.
so, by understanding where my voice came from, where my culture came from, where my family came from, and taking responsibilities for both the good and the bad, then I was able to say, okay, this culture belongs to me because,
Mm,
not just because of this color of my skin, because of my gender, because of my social economic background, or because of my religion, but because I have chosen to adopt certain values from that culture. And
mm,
as I've grown, both in age and I guess in some ways awareness, I've realized that some of the things that were just naturally like part of my culture, like that's what we do, it's like, that's what you do. That's not what I choose to do because now I understand the impact that that action, that thought, that belief, that value has had on others. And so I think though culture is learned, when we're young, we adopt the culture of our family, of the voices around us. We need to take responsibility to understand where those voices originated. And
mm,
sometimes it's historical. We can learn
mm,
it in a classroom, but sometimes we have to understand maybe the person that's teaching it to us, what
mm,
their personal history is, what their pain, what they're suffering,
mhm,
what they've gone through that's given them that language that they feel we need to learn,
mm.
which may not necessarily be true.
That is so true. Thank you so much. And you have a question from the audience. Ella
Uh oh,
says, but how would you know how they want to be treated, Coach? Can you please expand on that?
you ask.
Sorry.
You simply ask.
Okay, great.
So often we walk in thinking our way is the right way. Our belief
That's
system,
right.
our values are like everybody likes chocolate ice cream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go to the grocery store and buy chocolate ice cream. Well,
Mm,
how long does it take us to step out of self and say, hey, what would you like? How would you like to be treated? How would you like me to refer to your spouse, your partner, your children, whatever the relationship is? No one is ever offended with a question. They're always offended with a false assumption. But if you
mm,
take a moment and say, hey, I'm not familiar with this,
mm,
may I ask a question? How does this happen? How does you behave? How do you refer to this? Everybody will be open to sharing and growing.
mm,
So ask, how do you want to be treated in this situation? How should I have treated you in this situation? How could I have done a better job in acknowledging or connecting with you in this situation?
mm. Thank you so much, Coach Eric. Thank you. We ask instead of assuming. That's from Morel. Thank you so much. Guys, this is the Civilized Presence if you're just joining us for the very first time. And I have Coach Eric Reid in the house. So hang tight and be here. We're moving some tables. Great nuggets here from Coach Eric. You don't get him all the time. So you need to be here, guys. Now, I have another question for you. As a coach and trainer that has worked extensively with C level executives in Fortune 500 companies, please explain to the audience how cross cultural diversity affects the workplace, please.
Ah, so, well, let me give you a story. Often as a speaker, I'm a storyteller. So, I came to work for a company and I was in a training environment. And I had just moved from the Midwest, Minnesota, and into the South, into North Carolina. And so I was teaching and I was teaching, and I kept referring to, you guys need to do this, and you guys do this, and you guys do that. And during the break, I got a call from the HR director, and she said, some people in the room are offended with the word guys. They feel like you're excluding the women. And I was like,
Mm,
what? I wasn't being
mm,
gender specific, but in Minnesota, we use the term you guys
right,
as a generic everybody in the room. And she
right.
said, you can't use that word. Could you please just, I'm like, okay, cool. Open to awareness,
Wow,
open to learning. So I walk in for the second day of training and I start saying, you people. Well,
wow.
anybody from the South knows that that got me called back into the HR office. And she said, in the South, the
Mm,
term you people
mm,
refers to often a class or a race of people, and now more people are offended. And I was like, what am I supposed to say? And she said, try you all. And I said, okay, I'm not from the South, but that's a common phrase. What it points out is we often come into a room, into a meeting, into an office with our own history and our own awareness of language
mm,
sometimes.
mm,
And we don't take time to introduce that to the room. We don't take time to explain our position, nor
mm,
does somebody take the time to explain how it's being received. And so tension builds in the corporate place. He's saying this, he's saying this, he's a racist, he's a genderist, he's, specific. And yet, because that HR valued the bigger lesson, she said, you know what, if we tweak this, you'll
mm,
communicate at such a higher level. You'll be able to connect at such a higher level. And because I was willing to receive it, we were able to move forward. Often corporations and teams break down
mm.
because they are so built on structure and formality and standard operating procedures
Wow.
and internal language that nobody feels safe to step up and say, I just want to tell you this is how this is being
Mm,
received, how I'm experiencing that.
right.
And if we can listen, not with judgment, not with like, oh, I can't believe she's talking about me that way, but like, oh, okay, my message is bigger than this, so I can make that change.
Mm,
I often find corporations and large teams need those moments of nobody lets me express how this is impacting me. There's always the assumption, and that's what I mean by going back and being willing to ask, is my message being heard? Am I
mm,
communicating in a way that everybody understands?
mm,
I've worked in multiple cultures, multiple countries, and there are certain things in certain countries that are traditions and values that are not necessarily part of an American standard.
mm,
And if you're not willing to tune in and ask the questions and say, why is this? How
mm,
did this come to be? What is the history of this? Oh, now I understand. Now I can connect better. My job as a leader is to make sure that I'm communicating not so I can speak, but
mm,
so that I can be heard. And to do that, I need to step into the place of the audience. Now, I'll now fully be able to do it completely because there's always going to be a barrier because of personal experience.
mm,
But if I can understand why a woman of color feels this way, or why a lady in a particular religious sect feels this way, or socioeconomic background feels this way, then I can say, okay, I need to communicate in a way that they can identify with so that they can move forward through it.
wow. That is powerful, guys. And if you feel like me that he is dropping some great nuggets because he is, please give us all the loves and the likes, guys. Facebook, You cannot miss this video. You need to share it. There are a lot more people who must have this lesson. And yeah, just yesterday, last night, I saw a post on Facebook of a lady who had an argument with another lady because they're in an apartment building, and the lady came down from her apartment, sat right in front of her house, and said, "Well, until you let my kids take a nap, I'm not going to have peace with you." And this was serious. And the lady said, "Well, I've never even seen you before. Why are you so troubled? Children are going to make noise. I mean, how loud can the noise be? There is a better way to talk about it." And of course, in the comments, we had everything about racism and culture and all that. And I said, "Oh, no, stop. You need to come to Coach Eric. He's talking tomorrow. You can learn something."
I'll have to do an on-site visit.
Okay, so moving along, the four major areas that underpin civility are social intelligence, emotional intelligence, cultural competence, and systems thinking. Now, cultural competence is also focused on inclusion, mindfulness, acceptance, being responsible, and awareness. So the question would be, what are some easy steps that you can give our audience that can guide them to becoming more culturally competent? Over to you, Coach Eric.
Oof. I think for me, it's always just been exposure. Um,
Mm,
I I love being an observer. I love going into a community, whether it's local or international, and just observing and questioning, like, why is this? How is this? Where did that come from? Da 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 da. And people will almost feel like they're being um, surveyed. But the more I understand about a particular community or culture, the more I understand about myself.
mm,
I often laugh because the more I know about others, the more clearly I know about me. My history as a white Anglo Saxon male is not separate than those from other cultures, other countries, other races, other times. And it's a layer upon layer that, in order for me to know who I am, I need to know who other people are and what they contributed. So whenever I'm sitting at a dinner table and somebody presents a meal, it's like, well, why? Like when I first moved to the South, some of the foods of the South are, deep fried, and there's a certain food culture. Well, as I began to understand the history of Southern food and understand that the history of Southern food primarily came from slave food, and slaves didn't have access to refrigeration and preservatives, and some of the food quality was not always the best, that being able to salt it or fry it was a way of protecting the food and serving the less than tender meat. And so it was like, oh, so that's what brought about this kind of food. Or yams and sweet potatoes and collards are foods that can be carried through seasons that don't need refrigeration and cold cellars that weren't available to traditional Southern cooking. Now I understand the culture of the food and I understand where the food history came from. So now I understand the significance of sitting at that table with them.
mm,
And it's like, oh, now I've just through a meal, I've been able to understand a culture and a history and a means of survival and a mindset and a community. And
mm,
I eat. Man, do I eat it. And not only the food at the table, but the lessons that I've learned. When I
mm.
traveled to South America and I was using certain words like leadership, and people were saying, and they would flinch and they would flinch. And I'm thinking, but leadership is a good word until I understood historically in South America, leadership was government and government was
Right.
corrupt and
That's
government
correct.
took from people and government broke promises and government was all things negative. And when I was saying I'm a leadership expert, that was, so I need to change my language now that I understand the history of the word in this community. So you have to be exposed, but you have to be willing to be exposed and be corrected and
Mm,
be educated and be broken down to be built up in a sense.
mm. Thank you so much, Coach Eric. We have a good response from the audience. And thank you to all of you who are sharing the video. I can see that you're sharing this video. Thank you. I really do appreciate you. And what you're saying, Coach Eric, is very important. I remember a couple of years ago when I had to go with a friend of mine who was going to be getting married to someone from some part of Asia. Okay. And so we were visiting this restaurant for the very first time. Now, the spices were all over the place, right? And we had a third friend with us who was, I mean, just who didn't have so much patience. Let's say that she had inadequate patience that was needed for the situation. So when we got there, she freaked out and she said, "Why does this place smell so bad?" And I was like, "Oh, you don't say that.
That
It
wasn't
doesn't."
kind.
I said, "That wasn't kind, girl. It doesn't smell bad. It's the spices that I use to prepare the food. You know, that I know the spices can be very troublesome sometimes. You try to control them and they're out of order." And I said, "We have the same kind of spices too that are very unfriendly. And you wouldn't like if someone had come into your restaurant to say that or come into your home to say that." So it's very important that we take the extra step to really pay attention to other people, to really be kind. And it's an intentional act. It just happen because if you want to stay in the normal, you can freak out easily. But you have to be able to stretch out and give space for somebody else to accommodate the person next to you. Now, we have another question for you, Coach Eric. Cross cultural communication describes how people of different culture, ethnic, age, and class background communicate and interact. Now, I want us to go to the families now because we have a lot of parents on the line. So, in a family where the couple of diverse cultures, the children are faced with two different cultures, and this can be a challenge and of course can lead to a term called identity negotiation. So my question would be, how can you advise such families to work with their children? Over to you, Coach Ari.
Wow. Well, so I don't know if your audience knows, but my children are brown skinned. They are Latino. They are Hispanic. They are
And they are
adopted.
beautiful.
Thank you. They and I call them my browns because they are. I mean, we stand next to each other. It's pretty obvious. When we adopted, we made a conscious decision that they are of universal children, but they have a particular history of being Hispanic or Latino. And they also have my history, my family heritage of Minnesota, German, Lutheran background. We never said that one has value above the other.
Mm,
We've always focused on pointing out the uniqueness of each and how blessed and lucky they are that they get to merge them. So
mm,
sometimes my son will say something and I'll say, that's the brown in you because he likes spicy food, or he'll do something and I'll acknowledge it and I'll say, I love his, and I'll just acknowledge and reward and elevate that part of him. And then other times I'll say, oh, you are so much like me because of that. Well, to a 9-year old, he identifies likeness on texture and skin color and eyes. But what he's also learning is that it's a learned behavior, that he can learn
right.
behaviors that are from my community and communities of his. We took an intentional action of moving out of the US and going to South America and living in Uruguay for 3 years because I wanted him to learn about his Latino ness, his Hispanic, not from a chalkboard down perspective, but from a
Right.
ground up.
Mm,
And so he became aware that his community, his culture, his language belong to a bigger place than just what he was seeing on TV. I
mm,
think when we have children that are part of multiple cultural families or multiple race families, that we have to make sure that we support the other person. So if you're in a biracial family and you happen to be the white, you have to be able to support the black person and say, oh, I love this about your mother's culture. I love this about your father's culture. One of the things that I love about this culture, and the other person come back, so the child doesn't have to choose that this is the better of the two. This is identified as my mother and this is identified as my father. but this is identified as my family.
Mm,
And
mm,
so my son now speaks Spanish fluently. He won't speak Spanish with me because my Spanish is very, very bad. And he
mm,
just laughs and it's like, it's too hard with you. But yet we have Latino friends that he'll speak Spanish with fluently. And because he's proud of that history in him, he doesn't have to make a choice. I've never said this was better, this was worse. This is who you are. So I think exposing our kids, number one, ex- and participating equal to them. Not like saying, well, you're Latino, you need to go to Latino school, I'm going to stay home. No, you need to be in the community and in the culture at the same degree. You want them to take pride and ownership of it. You can't
mm,
separate them out and say that half of you belongs to this and
mm,
this half of you belongs to me.
mm, mm. Thank you so much. I think that is so helpful because the society has really tied us and enslaved us into so much levels. Sometimes you meet somebody great, and instead of listening to what that person has to offer, the first question is, "Where is that accent coming from?" And I'm thinking, that's not so important, Why do you feel so entitled to start, drilling on the next person? But this is happening and it's becoming a norm in our society, and it's so great to hear from you and what you are doing, the kind of work you're doing with your children. I know that a lot of parents will learn from that because sometimes that kind of discourages people to marry out of their culture, which it shouldn't be so. Now, I have two more questions for you, and trust me, these questions are really hot. Now, so the next one, and I explain why it is hot because it relates to what we are going through presently, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to know what we can do. So, the question for you is, what steps would you describe to our audience that can prove useful in bridging the racial and cultural differences we're currently seeing in our country today, especially towards immigrants? So that's a little hot. That's a little hot, Coach Eric. That's a little hot.
You know, it is a hard question, and I could dodge it and duck under it because I want to be politically correct and safe. But what I've come to see hurts. And it hurts because so often the language that I'm hearing is language of hate and language of fear. And if we truly are a country of unlimited potential and abundance, if we have space in the middle of our country that is totally unoccupied, if we believe in a divine being that can create more than we can contain, why we act out of such fear and possessiveness and lack. And this comes to a personal story where my children were very young, and I think my son was maybe 2, he might have been 3, but barely that it. And I was standing in a store, and a lady looked down and said, "Oh, is he legal?" And I first I had to ask, why in the world would you even think of asking that question out loud? And then two, what are you afraid of? Because that question came from a place of fear. It wasn't, oh, how long has he been? It was, is he legal? Because if he's not, just
Wow.
the tension of the moment. I thought,
Wow.
this is a 3-year-old child. What are you fearful of?
Wow.
What are
Wow.
you so afraid of that your first and
Wow.
primary concern is not anything above beyond, is he
Hmm.
legal? Does he belong here? Is he allowed in our group? And
Mm.
if we were willing to say that there, and I've always said this and I've always been aware of it, that there is always a them and an us.
Mm.
That in every time and every place, there is a them and an us. And sometimes you are the them, and sometimes you are the us. And when governments are failing, when schools are not producing, when jobs are not growing, when economies are collapsing, when there is a lack of performance by government,
Mm.
instead of taking responsibility, they find an us group or a them group to point the herd at so that the mobs, instead of rallying against the palace,
Mm.
will arm themselves against the common enemy. And we've seen it throughout history. We could go back and quote country after country, leader after leader, that has used the ability to focus people's attention on other people as the problem instead of trying to create a common solution. And so, in this time of immigrants and do they belong and build the wall and legal versus illegal and documented versus undocumented, what we're really saying, I think, sometimes as individuals, as in a nation, and this is not politically correct, and I will probably have all your viewers tune out at this point, is what we're really saying is I don't believe I have enough or I can create enough that the only way for me to succeed is to take from others instead
Mm,
of create from self. And Wallace D. Waldo, who is a wonderful writer, says that more can be created than ever can be achieved through competition.
mm,
And so instead of competing against another country, another race, another group of individuals, let us pull together and use our creative passion, use our divine ability to make so much that we're inviting others to our table to take it because it will go to waste if we don't.
mm.
Sorry, I had to go preach there for a minute, and it's not even Sunday
That's
morning.
okay. That is great. That is fine. Thank you so much, Coach Eric. And you are just the best person to have talked about this because you have your own personal experiences. And maybe if I had to deal with this topic, I'm going to be working based on research that 55% say it's this and that. And that might not be as powerful as having a personal story because that really touches the heart. And I can see the viewers' comment really saying, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. Being born from a family with parents from two different backgrounds. This makes so much sense. But thank you so much. So, guys, we have gotten to the top of the hour. You can see that you cannot be culturally competent unless you're civilized. Now, if you're struggling with that, join us here every Mondays and Fridays at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. This is going to help you from saying the wrong things when you see people of different colors, okay, and different cultures. This is going to help you from knowing what is right to say. My mom always said, if you don't have a good thing to say, just keep quiet. That's going to help. Okay, don't get into people's faces. And it's only civility that's going to help you with that. Be respectful. Respect the next person to you. We are all very unique and people of worth and important. Okay, stretch out. It is an intentional act. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. So I encourage you that as we go out this week, try to do something that you've never done before. I came in this morning, and Coach Eric, I think I should mention that to you. And right at the elevator, I saw this guy who said, "Good morning." That hasn't happened in so many years. And I thought, wow, this is a good sign. I'm going to meet Coach Eric because people usually don't even say good morning. And even when you do anything for them, they feel so entitled to say thank you. And that's the community that we live in. So when he said good morning, I had to look at my back for a minute. I thought, was that for me? Because I wasn't expecting it. That is sad. But you know what? That made me feel good. I'm sure it shows up in my disposal today that somebody was good and nice to me. They were able to ease the experience and all of the stress coming from home. I feel so great. So please try to take those intentional acts, guys. Try to do it. Every day, ask yourself, what am I doing to make the world a better place? How am I adding value to the person next to me? And you don't have to start searching for an audience. Listen, your neighbor is right beside you. Have you ever said hello? Have you ever lent a helping hand to somebody in the grocery store? It begins with tiny little acts of kindness. And that's the feedback that I want to get here every day. That's just going to make us feel happy and know that we are in the right track, okay? Now, like I had said at the start of the session, that if you want to learn more about what we do, you can visit our website. It's www.thecivilityacademy.com. And if you have any questions, please go ahead. Even if you're here on the replay, leave it in the comment box. I will pass them on to Coach Eric, and he would be happy to work with you on all of those questions. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. I hate to let you go, but we have to. Coach Eric, thank you so much for making out time. And every day at 8 a.m., guys. Please join Coach Eric on his
Uh,
session. You are never going to regret it. Seriously. I have fun with this guy every morning at 8 a.m. because he always gives me a reason to step out with confidence and just being positive about my career and work and life. Thank you so much, Coach Eric, for using
I,
your gifts
no,
to
I
bless
appreciate
so many
you
people.
allowing. You have educated me. You've raised my awareness that
Oh,
to be civil costs nothing. It costs
right,
us nothing,
right.
and one act a day, just one act of intentional civility, what
Absolutely.
a dramatic impact that could make in somebody's life and in our country, that I
Absolutely.
sort of daily say, well, how can I be more like Louisa? What can I do to step into that at a higher level? So thank you for raising my awareness.
Thank you so much. And you're making me turn purple now. It can't be pink because I'm brown skinned. And guys, thank you so much. I'm receiving a lot of ads on Facebook and invites, and thank you. But sometimes I'm a bit troubled when people add me and they don't have a profile picture. Please try to put one there. And that's part of being civil. Okay? Try to put a nice photo of you. I want to see what you look like. Thank you guys. So I'll see you again on Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Bye for now.
Bye bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.